It used to be that I couldn't get good enough signal up here. I'm in the rural White Mountains of Arizona, and I could never get any signal enough to do a podcast, but somehow that's improved lately.
Yeah, you had to drive around a little bit to
Yeah.
get a better signal.
Yeah.
That was the thing.
I'm over at the public library right now, so.
Oh, well, that's an intelligent place to be. I heard it's the tallest building in your state because it's got the most stories.
Yeah.
That's a Gene joke.
Hey, that's a good joke.
Hey, so Moroni, do you what is your relationship to the prophet Jessup?
Well, I'll probably get into that in the story a little bit.
Okay.
All Jessups are related, though.
You're right.
So, are we recording now?
We are now recording, but we're not. It's not going to be part of the show.
This is pre-show.
Okay.
I'll just start the show.
Yeah, I'll explain it all when we get going.
Wait for Randy to finish his sip.
Well, no. Well, then let me get something to eat too, and you guys can just watch me eat breakfast.
Why don't you get a massage?
Yeah.
During the show.
Go right ahead.
If I have a coughing fit, my health is not the best, so I don't know if we can pause it or something if I break into a coughing fit. I'm hoping not. That's why I brought something to sip, but my lungs are just not what they used to be.
We can edit whatever out that we need to. So cough away.
Just as long as your coughing isn't the best part of the show. Then we'll have to keep
You never know.
Right. Welcome everyone to Latter Digest and
Hey guys.
Okay.
I'm the Momo part. Okay.
We'll start again. Welcome everyone to Latter Daily Digest and Momo Nomo. Thanks, Randy, for co-hosting.
Oh, it's always a pleasure, Gene, and thank you for having me.
That's right. And today we're featuring Moroni Lopez Jessup. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Moroni was recently on Benjamin Park Historian channel, and I was fascinated with something he said. He said that he converted to polygamy in part because of a pamphlet called 4 Hidden Revelations. And so it's time to expose them so they're not hidden anymore. But Moroni, tell us sort of a little bit about your life leading up to when you first saw the pamphlet.
Okay, so I was actually raised in the LDS Church. However, I have an infamous last name, Jessup. You may have heard it or heard of it before, but the Jessup family started out with the original fundamentalist movement at its impetus in the 1920s. And my great-grandfather, his name was Moroni Jessup also. And he was heavily involved with Lauren Woolley and others of the fundamentalist movement. But now, my grandfather, what?
Did your grandfather ever come to you in a dream and say, Moroni, you have to keep up the image of my name so that you don't rub it in the dirt or something? Just like Wilford Woodruff, I think, had a dream like that.
But I finally did get to the point where when you Google my name, it brings me up actually instead of my grandfather.
Oh,
so anyway, so that was my great grandfather. My grandfather went back to the LDS Church, and I think he was a fundamentalist at heart because he taught my dad a lot of fundamentalist doctrines when my dad was little, and then he died when my dad was just a boy. And my dad was not allowed to have any communication with his fundamentalist relatives, served a mission for the church, went to BYU like you're supposed to, and then he came across some of his Jessup polygamous relatives, and he set out on a quest to try to prove them wrong and prove that the church was right. He spent most of his time in BYU in the special collections section of the BYU library, reading controversial literature, and eventually became converted to Mormon fundamentalism, except that my mother was not on board exactly with it. And so he stayed in the church for 20 years after that, and was frequently getting in trouble for making controversial statements in priesthood meetings. And, I remember that he was always having a talking to by, the 70s quorum leader or something like that, come over after church, go in the bedroom with my dad alone, and he would get chewed out. But
so what city were you raised in?
I was raised all over Utah, but when I was about 12 years old, we moved to Casa Grande, Arizona, or as locals say, Casa Grande.
Yeah, Casa Grande.
And
that's where my daughter lives right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So when people ask me where I'm from, I consider myself as from Casa Grande, even though I spent the bulk of my childhood in Utah.
Yeah, Jimmy Kerr Drive.
Yeah, Jimmy Kerr Drive. In fact, I went to high school with Jimmy Kerr's daughter.
There you go.
So
what
anyway,
years were you in Casa Grande or Casa Grande?
I was there from 82, when I was 12 years old, to about 1990.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, I was only there 8 years, but, still, that's where I consider myself as being from.
Do you recognize it now? Have you been back lately?
Oh, I went back a few years ago, and no, it's grown.
It's crazy.
So
I grew up in Gilbert. And
so, okay.
There were only a few families out, and they had this little branch building out there, But we'd go out and scout out the girls in Casa Grande as opposed to, our Gilbert girls.
Pasture's always greener.
Yeah. Casa Grande was part of the Chandler stake when I was there. Now it's its own stake. But back then it was part of the Chandler stake. So when we used to go to stake dances, it was usually in Chandler.
An hour away.
Yeah. So anyhow, my dad started studying these things, and then he started teaching them to, us children. And we got in trouble when my sister documented what my dad was teaching in her journal, and she went to a young women's sleepover and left her journal there. And the young women's advisor got a hold of the journal and read it and reported it to the bishop. And this whole process took almost 2 years, but my dad eventually got excommunicated, followed by my mother and my oldest brother, because my oldest brother held the Melchizedek priesthood, and I was just getting to the point where I was going to be missionary age. And I believed the things that my dad was teaching me, which I'll get into in just a moment. But I got called into the bishop's office right before I moved to Salt Lake to go to college. And I was only asked 2 questions. The first one was, do you believe that plural marriage should be lived in this day and age? And I answered yes. And then he asked, do you support Ezra Taft Benson as prophet, president, and seer, or whatever it is, prophet, and the only man on the earth who can hold keys? And I, of course, said no. Hold on. Something for you to edit out.
Randy, you're muted.
Yeah, I just jumped in and said prophet, seer, and revelator, and then I realized I was muted. So,
okay, so yeah, prophet, seer, and revelator. But I got tried in absentia. I was in Utah.
What did you say to that question about, do you believe he's the
Oh,
prophet?
yeah. I said no.
Only person on earth that
I
can
said no
receive-
because at that point I had read the hidden revelation, the 4 hidden revelations.
Oh, wow.
But so I moved up to Utah, and I got the invitation to my trial and the results of my trial on the same day. So tried in absentia. My whole family got excommunicated from this was instructions from Salt Lake, including my 13-year-old sister. The whole family, just as a whole family, got excommunicated.
Now,
It was announced.
Do you think the SCMC had anything to do with it, the Strengthening the Church Members Committee?
It may have been, from what we understood, when my dad was in the middle of talking to the bishop, there was an older gentleman that came home from his mission. He was the mission president of the Philippines at that time. He was appalled to find quasi-fundamentalists in his ward. And so he contacted Salt Lake personally and got word personally what to do with us. It was announced over the pulpit not to have any association with us. And I knew that because I had a friend from high school who was taking the lessons at that point. And she got a hold of me and told me what they had said in church that Sunday.
Well, you know what? I think that thought has been carried on generationally because they don't announce it anymore, but people seem to do it, right? If they hear word of somebody doesn't go to church anymore, they don't make contact with them very often, right? Or at least they don't want to hear what they have to say other than how's the weather. And I wonder if that is sort of like the history behind soft shunning nowadays.
Yeah.
Is people hearing of announcements of a family or a person getting excommunicated and don't contact them anymore, right?
Yeah.
So show us the pamphlet that you read.
Okay. 4 hidden revelations. It's very thin, as you can see. But this is one of the foundational publications of the fundamentalist movement, and I started reading that. I also read a book called Interview with Moroni Jessup before my great grandfather died in, I think, 1953. There was an interview that was done with a tape recorder with him, and they got his testimony of being involved with the fundamentalist movement from the beginning. So I got to read firsthand about events like the 8-hour meeting, which I'll talk about in a moment. It mentioned several times the 1886 revelation, which we'll also talk about. And so I'll just mention for a little bit, I'll kind of just give a brief rundown of what's in the 4 hidden revelations. And you'll have to excuse me, I wrote notes. So basically, you know, we talked a little bit ago about how they were hidden and they're not going to be hidden anymore. Well, who was hiding the revelations? It was basically church leadership hiding these revelations from the general membership.
So we know that the church recently released on some church-run page that just quietly, they just listed it as a document. And that was the revelation to John Taylor.
Yeah, they just recently digitized it into their archives without announcing it, without any preamble, without anything. They just kind of put it on. It was on there one day, and somebody caught that it was there, and you know, sent screenshots of it around social media. You know, and I was surprised. I was floored that they actually were making that available, actually acknowledging its existence, because it has a history of the church denying that it even exists.
Right. And just quickly, what were the other 3 hidden revelations? And
okay, I'll give them really quick, and I'll give kind of a basic
Okay.
rundown of what they are. The first one is called the 1880 Revelation. It's received by Wilford Woodruff. Wilford Woodruff, in fact, interesting trivia. It was received in January 26, 1880, exactly 146 years ago today. And
Oh, wow.
it was received in a community that doesn't exist anymore, Sunset, Arizona, which is actually not far from where I'm at right now. And Wilford Woodruff was in hiding. They were already trying to arrest church leaders for officiating plural marriages and living plural marriage. So he hid out in this community to avoid arrest. Another interesting tidbit that I didn't know, he wound up hiding in Bunkerville, Nevada, on the Arizona Strip, and then in Sunset. And when he would travel between these locations to be anonymous, he would dress up as a woman. He'd wear a dress and a bonnet. And I don't know, maybe he didn't have the beard, but I just found that amusing. That was just something that I didn't know.
And he would do that to avoid recognition, or because he kind of liked the feel of the ladies?
You never know. You never know.
Right?
Very well could have been an excuse. So the revelation was one to the apostles, and it basically just talks about the persecution of the government and of the saints by the government. And the instruction is to bring the name of your enemies onto the altar and wash your feet against your enemies, and then I, the Lord, will fight your battles for you. And that's the main gist of it. But there was one interesting thing. Sometimes the difference between different fundamentalist groups is who they consider as their prophet. The FLDS cling to Warren Jeffs. The AUB currently has Dave Watson. It seems like whoever the main difference is whoever they call their prophet. Well, the 1880 revelation, there's like a select few of us who don't believe in what we call the one-man doctrine. We believe that keys are held in common by the apostleship, and that many men can hold the keys, and that if there's one that presides, kind of like the what's it called, the Robert's Rules, that book, that the president should just preside, keep order in the quorum meetings.
Robert's Rules of Order.
Yeah, Robert's Rules of Order, sorry. But that the president should just keep order in meetings and doesn't have any greater or lesser authority than anyone else in that room. And just kind of in the same way that an elders quorum has an elders quorum president. He doesn't have any greater priesthood than the other elders. So there's some of us that maintain that, and the 1880 revelation kind of supports us in that, because the revelation addresses all of the quorums of the priesthood of the apostleship, and it says, do you not hold the keys in common? And interesting fact about this, the FLDS acknowledges all of the revelations in this book except for that one, except for the 1880, for a couple of reasons. Wilford Woodruff is the one that signed the first manifesto to end plural marriage. They consider that treason. They consider that abominable, and they believe that he lost his priesthood. Therefore, a revelation received by Wilford Woodruff doesn't mean anything to them. But mostly they have rejected that because it contradicts the one-man doctrine that they've set up, where Warren Jeffs is the only man on the earth who holds priesthood authority. So anyway, that's just one other fact about the 1880 revelation. One of the criticisms that, especially lately, that people have given the 1886 revelation and these other revelations is that they're uncanonized. They're not included in any of our canons. Well, with the exception of one of them, but I'll explain that in just a moment. they basically say that they're not valid because they weren't put before the body of the saints for a vote and included in scripture and everything. But the 1880 revelation was specifically made to the apostleship. It was a revelation to the apostleship. It wasn't a revelation to the general membership of the church. It was only to the apostles. And it was presented to the apostles and accepted by them, but just not included in any canon. The next one, really quick, is the 1882 revelation received by John Taylor. And this one was received and included in different European editions of the Doctrine and Covenants. It was never included in any of the American canons, the American versions of the Doctrine and Covenants, because John Taylor died, Wilford Woodruff ended polygamy before another edition could be published. So the point was kind of moot to include this revelation, because in it, it basically states that men cannot preside unless they live, quote, my law, and my law being interpreted as plural marriage. The revelation also calls George Teasdale and Heber J. Grant to the Quorum of the 12. This is the revelation that was given to call them. And Seymour B. Young was called to the office of 70. So, it's an important revelation, and it's acknowledged because, Heber J. Grant, who is regarded as one of the biggest enemies of Mormon polygamist movement, this is the revelation by which he was called, one that says, you will enter my law, for you cannot preside over the priesthood unless you abide by my law. And I'm paraphrasing, of course, but now I'm going to jump to the fourth one really quick, because we're going to focus a little bit more on the third one, which is the 1886 revelation. But just to touch briefly on the 1889 revelation received by Wilford Woodruff. This one was received a year before the Manifesto was given, before the church announced an end to plural marriage. He was being pressured immensely by other people, other church leadership members, to end plural marriage. And he went to the Lord and received a revelation to continue the practice. The Lord wasn't going to end it. A year later, he ends it. So that's basically all that you can say on that particular one. 1886 one is interesting. We don't have very much documented history on how John Taylor received it. The only account that we have of it is Loren Woolley's, Loren Woolley being the founder of the Mormon fundamentalist movement. And he didn't report on the events that occurred until the 1920s. So, we have several decades between the time Loren Woolley reports what happens and when John Taylor received the revelation. So we don't, have any, it's regrettable. We don't, fundamentalists will tell you that the church has suppressed any historical information supporting it. I don't know about that, but they're inextricable in the eyes of fundamentalists. The 8-hour meeting story and the 1886 revelation. And one of the things that I was mentioning to Benjamin Park is that they're not connected the way fundamentalists think. They're actually quite separate. The church acknowledged the existence of the 1886 revelation, but they did not admit that the 8-hour meeting occurred. But the fundamentalists, they're one and the same. So, do you guys have any comments or questions on that? Or?
No, I'm actually intrigued about this. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, you say, has a knowledge of these four doctrines, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And You said, did you mention that they had publicized them somewhere?
Yes, the which one was it? The 1882 revelation was part of, I think, specifically a German um, uh, Doctrine and Covenants, and I used to wonder if that was just a story that fundamentalists told, but it must not be, because Benjamin Park mentioned it also in his presentation. That that revelation had been canon. So, but I can give some of the events surrounding the 1886 revelation. So John Taylor was in hiding. At this point, the 1882 Edmunds Law had been passed, which was, you know, the unlawful cohabitation law that they used to prosecute polygamists. It also stripped polygamists the right to vote. Then later in 1887, they passed the Edmunds-Tucker Law, which disenfranchised the church, took away the temples and chapels, etc. And but during,
what do you mean took them away?
denied them ownership of their property.
Wow.
Really?
So yeah, I mean, it was a tough time, and that's why so many people were willing to do away with plural marriage, because they say only about 10% of the men were living it. And you know, why should I lose my land for a principle I'm not even living? You know, I'm sure that was the attitude of a lot of the people.
But 50% of the women were.
Yeah, exactly. So so over at Pioneer Park, you can still find it. They have a bunch of old pioneer homes that are set up. There's one that is called, it's a one-level home, and it's called the Charles C. Rich Home. That's where the 8-hour meeting took place. That's where John Taylor received the 1886 revelation. Not in you know, the This Is the Place monument, but originally it was set up in Centerville, and it used to be actually a 2-story home. The portion that they have at the This Is the Place monument is only the first level. But you know, as a young fundamentalist, I made like pilgrimage treks to all these locations. I went to This Is the Place monument so I could see the house, and I went to the place where the house originally was set up in Centerville. It's on the property of a stake center now, but you can still see the remnants of the road on the lawn, you know, where the old road used to be. And
so you're saying that these are like, this is the polygamous place.
Yeah, yeah,
like
exactly.
Places for polygamists, Randy.
Yeah, because it's a very important. Go ahead.
For those of anyone listening, you're talking about Pioneer Park in Utah, correct?
It's the little village that they have set up at This Is the Place monument.
Okay, because people, so many people, especially those living in Mesa, there's a Pioneer Park in Mesa.
I was going to say it's probably
right across from the temple.
Pioneer Park.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So when you said Pioneer Park, I'm like, wait, what?
Right.
And it's got the train set up in it, or at least it used to.
That's right. It had a train and it had a fighter jet. And you know, we'd climb all over that fighter jet, and eventually this isn't about that, but yeah, I was just making sure there's Pioneer Park in Centerville.
You know, I don't even know if it's called Pioneer Park. It is called This Is the Place monument, and they have a little pioneer village set up there, and the house is there. But so what happened there? John Taylor would go from member's house to member's house to hide for a few days, and there was even, I don't know if John Taylor hid here, but my wife grew up in Draper, And right on the edge of Corner Canyon, before all the buildings went up, there was an old pioneer house that was built in the late 1800s, and it had an underground tunnel from the basement to a cellar, and it was installed so that when the law officials came, that whoever was hiding there, avoiding arrest and prosecution, could go through the tunnel and out the cellar and up into Corner Canyon.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so I don't know if John Taylor actually stayed at that place or not, but
I guess it's called a heritage park.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense.
Heritage Park.
So anyway, John Taylor used to hide at different houses, and he spent the rest of his life in hiding like that. I remember hearing stories that he wanted to get out of the house so bad, but they were afraid he'd be seen. So they hung up sheets on the clotheslines, and he would pace back and forth in between the sheets so nobody would see him. And
wow.
Anyway, according to the Woolley story, Woolley was one of the bodyguards and messengers for John Taylor. And they were at his father's house. His father is the one who was living in what we call the Charles C. Rich house at the time. And subsequently, my great-grandfather was later a ranch hand at that same place. A group of church elders came to visit John Taylor, and they put a proposal in front of him to end plural marriage. According to Lauren Woolley, John Taylor was not sure what to do about it, and so George Q. Cannon suggested, "Why don't you pray over it and give us your answer in the morning?" The next morning, well, according to Lauren Woolley, he heard voices and saw light under the door that night. And since he was a bodyguard, he said, "This is the only door. Who got in past me?" And so he went around to the window to see if it was open. And when he got to the window, he felt the Spirit and tell him, "Can't you feel the Spirit? Don't you know that everything's all right?" And so the next morning, John Taylor came out, and his face was glowing, and said that, "I spent the night with Jesus Christ and Joseph Smith, and they've told me not to end plural marriage." And then he proceeded to write a revelation, which is a very short revelation. It's only about 3 paragraphs, and you can find it online. You can find it on the church archives now. That basically denied the Lord was saying not to end the practice of plural marriage, that he was very adamant on the point. And so there ensued what was called the 8-hour meeting, where different men were set apart to continue officiating in plural marriages, even if the church did away with it. In fact, John Taylor prophesied that the church would do away with it. And there's controversy around the story, even among Mormon fundamentalists. Not all fundamentalists readily accept this story, but it's, for other fundamentalists, it's just as much part of folklore and scripture as the story of the Grove, with Joseph Smith. It's just as important to them. And they were told to not let a year go by that somebody is born in plural marriage. Now, when I hear that, I interpret, make sure that plural marriage continues, make sure children are born. There's some people that interpret it that every woman should have a child every year.
Wow, every single woman.
Which is
Wow.
mind-boggling even to me. That's a very strict requirement, and I don't interpret that particular admonition to mean that that's every woman.
That's similar to lots of other Mormons, where I'm going to do Mormonism better than you. I'm going to do it conservative Mormonism or fundamental Mormonism better than you by interpreting things that way. And so
exactly. So anyway, he commissions a bunch of men, and I don't recall the names of all of them, but John Woolley and Lauren Woolley were two of them that were given a commission. And that part, I can agree, because it seems to be in keeping. It seems like John Taylor, Joseph F. Smith, Lorenzo Snow, they all privately encouraged plural marriage to continue, and made sure that men were ordained to do so after the Manifesto.
Right. Like 230 or more post-Manifesto marriages were entered.
Yeah. But there's like some supernatural aspects to it that I struggle with on the 8-hour meeting, like John Taylor floated above the ground while he made prophecy, and I read that and I'm like, really?
Yeah, you have to spice things up like that to believe in them. Just like Randy still thought Paul Bunyan had a big blue ox named Babe just until a couple of years ago.
I was born at night, but it wasn't last night.
Yeah.
So, I believe the 8-hour meeting. I believe that men were given the commission. I just have a hard time. So I guess I should say Lauren Woolley was a cowboy. He told tall tales. You read some of his claims and you're like, nah. And my grandfather, Moroni Jessup, was also a cowboy, and he was kind of the same way. When I joined the AUB later, when I was about 21, 22 years old, a lot of the old timers remembered what they called Uncle Roan. Uncle Roan was my great grandfather, Moroni Jessup, and they all had Uncle Roan stories. I guess he was a really colorful character, and but they thought of him fondly, but there was always some kind of tall tale that went along with that particular relative of mine.
And I think any thing that doesn't seem to make sense or happen nowadays is probably made up to enliven stories, because that's what storytelling was a few hundred years ago. It still happens today. People say things that are over the top and not meant to be taken literally. But the main thing with these this 8-hour meeting is that's what the fundamentalists said. From that, they were given a commission, a calling to keep on practicing the principle, right?
Yeah.
And so they sort of allowed the Brighamites to run the church and the priesthood and as far as administrating things, but the principle was even greater than that in a way. But so I understand a lot of AUB and others attended Brighamite churches and went on Brighamite missions and then converted, used that as a way to convert people. And that's why the church started the Strengthen the Church Membership Committee, was because of the tentacles of the polygamy were reaching far and wide into the church. And so that's all important. And what's really important too is that the leaders hiding from the law had precedence. People who were hiding either knew Joseph Smith or knew of Joseph Smith hiding all the time during Missouri and in Illinois. In fact, just before Joseph Smith was murdered, he was actually hiding, and his plan was to leave the state and be gone. And people convinced him to go back to Nauvoo and to get arrested, and that everything will be okay, just like like God is with him, right? Everything will be okay because God will protect you. If what you're telling us is true, Joseph, right? God will protect you. And he was probably like, well, I guess I'm going to have to do it, because otherwise it all goes to pieces. And so hiding hiding people, hiding revelations, lying about it, lying about where the leaders are, is all throughout the Mormon history.
It sounds kind of like Warren Jeffs, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Warren Jeffs was in hiding. His people lied about where he was. Warren Jeffs was going to Disneyland while his members were, forking out money so that he could.
That's right. He could have
enjoy
done
himself.
Hookers of Blow, and some of the people would still follow him.
He was watching porn in Las Vegas when the police finally got him.
Right.
I don't doubt that.
Yeah,
but
that's what the police records say.
Yeah, when I saw some of the documentaries produced last decade about Warren Jeffs, it was so clear that this is exactly what Joseph Smith went through. This is Mormonism, right?
Yeah.
And it's just the Brighamites have been able to tone it down, dial it back. Now, members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints can wear more sexy clothing with the shortening of the garments. They can drink sodas that have caffeine in it.
Yeah.
And probably coffee. It's just don't confess to the bishop. You can wear crosses now. The last few conferences in the spring have talked about honoring Palm Sunday. And when I grew up, and probably Randy too, anything that was related to some other church, we didn't do that because that was the other churches.
Well, I didn't even know what Palm Sunday was.
No.
I had no idea of what Good Friday and all of these things that are attached to the Easter season. Growing up LDS.
Right. I remember getting off school half a day on Good Friday and thinking, well, that's a Good Friday.
A
half a day of school.
Our version is every beginning of April, you get to wear pajamas all day on Sunday.
There you go.
Oh, nice. Well, I remember the first time I saw somebody, and I was a grown-up. I mean, this was just a matter of a few years ago. Guy walked in. I told him he had a smudge on his forehead. And he says, yeah, it's Ash Wednesday today. I had no idea. I'm like, oh, okay. And then I started noticing people on Ash Wednesday that wear the smudge of the ashes on their forehead. But guess what? The Mormons never taught me anything about that. They, set me up for failure on that one.
I think Randy made a prediction that we will see in maybe 10 years an apostle or two with ashes smudged on their forehead.
Very possible.
Never know.
Very possible. So anyway, I wanted to touch back what you were saying a little bit about how the fundamentalists were integrated with the church for a while. Well, that's because plural marriage had been so close to the church. A lot of men, like my dad says that he remembers in Mexico when he was a missionary there, that there was an old polygamist there who went to church with his two wives. And we're talking like this is in the 1960s. These had been Third Convention polygamists that had separated from the church, but when they rejoined, they were allowed to keep their wives. So my dad remembers polygamists in the church, but even in the 1960s. There was one man who was excommunicated for plural marriage, and he had been on the High Council. And as a High Counselor, he was allowed to sit up in the stands, every Sunday. But when he was excommunicated, they didn't allow him to sit up in the stands, but they put a chair off to the side of the pulpit. And
what?
In a way, it was them saying, we still honor your calling, even though you're excommunicated, and we can't have you, in your original position, but we're still going to honor you by putting this chair in front of the pulpit, and that's where you sit. And
did they make him wear a dunce cap?
But they
two-pronged dunce cap.
they used to send missionaries. Like you said, polygamous kids were sent as missionaries. They went to the church for their endowments.
Right.
There wasn't much of a separation, and that wasn't until the what they call the Third Manifesto of 1833,
Moroni,
which was
they went to the regular.
Bergamite.
Okay.
Yes.
They went there for their endowments.
Yes.
Yeah. So because they weren't separate from the church, really, they were just practicing the principle. They were still members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in a way. So they respected the authority of the leaders of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Salt Lake, but only as to like endowments and that they can run that church and publish scriptures and do all kinds of things. But we are the special chosen people to carry on with the principle.
Interesting. So
yeah.
their temple recommends were still valid.
So did you feel pride when you became a polygamist?
Did I feel pride?
Yeah. Did you feel special that you were carrying on the principle?
No, I felt like have you ever, what was that movie where Robert Redford runs for public office, and at the very last scene he turns to his campaign manager and goes, "What do I do now?"
What do I do now? Yeah.
Yeah, that was mainly the way I felt. What do I do now? But anyway, the polygamists at that point, they viewed their role as not establishing a separate church, but we're going to preserve this principle and then integrate back into the church. And it wasn't until what we call the Third Manifesto of 1833, and that's where both J. Reuben Clark and Heber J. Grant made public statements against polygamy. And in essence, what they did, they shut the door.
Right. They're going to start excommunicating polygamists.
They shut the door for any further practice. They standardized the disciplinary protocols for excommunication. They, just across the board, you live polygamy, you're going to be cut off. You think about polygamy, you're going to be cut off. And they solidified the division between fundamentalists and the church. After that, the fundamentalists were more of a separate entity and organization apart from the church from that time forward. And
right, because they needed the leadership. They started doing their own endowments and stuff like that.
Yeah, the endowments didn't start being done among fundamentalists really until the 1980s.
Okay.
And I can get to that later if we have time. But they basically ended any hope of reconciliation. And I don't know what it was. Wilford Woodruff just hated polygamists. And I have theories as to why. Both J. Reuben Clark and Heber J. Grant were cousins to Lauren Woolley. And, there's a story that's told that Lauren Woolley used to play baseball with Heber J. Grant when they were kids. And that Lauren Woolley used to tease Heber J. Grant mercilessly and call him a mama's boy because his father, Jedediah Grant, had died while baptizing saints in freezing water. And so he was raised by only his mother. And so, I don't know for sure, but I think about this and I think about how there was like an enmity between them. I wonder if it started back when they were children. But Heber J. Grant hated the polygamists, and he said that he would celebrate the day that polygamists were put in prison. And
So you're saying almost because they were rivals in baseball, that made Heber J. Grant against the polygamists.
I mean, who knows? You know, there could be deeper feelings that go all the way back to childhood between them, you know. And of course, I don't know that for sure. That's just me guessing. But anyway, Heber J. Grant said that he would celebrate the day that polygamists were put in prison. And they said he got to celebrate one day because the day that the prosecutions took place and they were remanded to the custody of the Utah State prison system, Heber J. Grant died the next day. So anyway, but back to the 18, oh gosh, I forgot what I was going to say. Sorry, guys, you can edit this out.
Yeah, well, and actually, I'm going to say something real quick. I have an appointment I forgot about that I need to get ready for. So I'm going to say I'm going to bow out and leave the rest of the interview to Randy. And you guys go ahead, go 5, 10, 15, 20 more minutes, whatever. And then I'll edit it later this week and we'll put it out at the end of the week, I think.
Where, Moroni, where are you right now?
I'm in the small town of Concho, Arizona, which is in eastern Arizona in the White Mountains. It's
gotcha. That's why you're able to sit in a vehicle without
right, instead of being freezing.
Because I mean, here
actually,
you'd be frozen to death by now.
Actually, there's snow on the ground right now. If I have a way of reversing the camera,
how close to snow, whatever it's called, Arizona?
Snowflake. Snowflake is about 45-minute drive for me.
45, yeah, sort of southeast.
No, I go northwest.
Oh, it's northwest from you. So you're
yeah, I'm right between Snowflake and St. John's, which are both Mormon communities.
Right.
Very Mormon.
So I'll do the what are you going to get into? Do you remember what you're going to finish your thought? Do you remember, Randy, what he was talking about?
Yes.
What was it? The 1883 revelation. Let me look at my notes.
Yeah, so I'll say something real quick and then I'll bow out.
Okay.
All right. Well, I have an appointment to get to, and Randy will finish the interview. And Moroni, you were talking about the 1882 or 3 revelation.
1883. No, I was talking about the third manifesto of 1933. Sorry.
Okay, the third.
Got so many dates to remember.
Right, you were talking about the enmity between Heber J. Grant and what's his name, the polygamist that you were saying? Was it?
Gosh, you know what? Sorry, we can just edit all this out because I can't even remember what I was saying.
Well, you were saying you were talking about Heber J. Grant died. That was like the biggest thing.
Yeah, and then
the next day.
You said that he died the next day, and he didn't have.
Yeah, I remember what I was going to say. Okay.
To celebrate.
So
I'll say goodbye, and you finish that thought.
Yeah. All right. Maybe I'll see you this year at Sunstone.
Oh yeah, for sure. All right.
All right. So the main thing that's important about the third manifesto is that both Heber J. Grant and J. Reuben Clark denied the existence of the 1886 revelation. They said it didn't exist. They called it a pretended revelation.
But we know that they knew.
They knew, and here in last year in 2025, all of a sudden the revelation is in the archives, and
go figure.
When I saw that, one of the things that Benjamin Park asked me is if it was going to change the way that fundamentalists viewed the revelation, and of course not. It's not going to change anything because we've always believed it. We've always insisted that it's real, and it turns out that it was.
Yeah, and go figure.
But it's affected the church. I will notice that there has been a few changes. I know that some people have left the church over it, and I know that others have started flocking to fundamentalism. I mean, not in like great numbers, but there's been several people that I've talked to over the last several months who are starting to ask questions about fundamentalism and starting to visit different communities. And it's all because of the acknowledgement of the church quietly that the revelation is real.
Yeah. Yeah. I have to wonder how many of these revelations are out there somewhere in people's, annals. I'll bet there's a lot that we don't know still and hasn't been revealed. The church tends to come out with these things, I think, when they realize that they can't be hidden anymore, especially with the advent of the internet and some of these things coming forth. I think the church very nonchalantly puts them out there. It's kind of slips them in, and I just wonder how much of that is out there still.
Well, one thing that took place with the 1933 third manifesto also is that there was a shift in the church. They shifted away from revelation and they shifted more to policy and to, everything is in a manual.
Yeah.
And it all goes back to the creation of fundamentalism. It's like they have to have something that's codified for all the members to use, and they don't deviate from it because they don't want to have, trying to think of the best way to express it. They don't want there to be many different opinions, and like we do in fundamentalism. Sometimes that's one of the faults in fundamentalism is that we have too much of a diversity of opinion.
Well, I think a lot of that's going on in the traditional church as well.
Yeah.
I think that, for instance, we have one prophet brag about the fact that the church goes by Mormon, and they have a huge, I
am a Mormon.
I am a Mormon campaign. And then we have a prophet gets up who says, well, that's a victory for Satan to use the term Mormon. We're not going to use that anymore.
Yeah.
And that, it's just one example of so many differing opinions of prophets. And I think people's shelf shakes a little bit each time there's a controversial statement or commandment or temporary commandment like that. That, hey, how's this? It's like the recent statement from President Oaks that he's lowering the mission age down to 18 because people will have a better chance of actually meeting someone, a spouse, while they're on their mission.
Yeah.
What? Anyway,
that's crazy.
All these changes, I think, it's got to be shaking people's testimony a little bit.
Yeah. So, Gordon B. Hinckley, while he was doing the I Am a Mormon campaign, he went in front of Larry King and did an interview. And in it, Larry King asked him about those who persist in practicing polygamy. And he said, there are no Mormon fundamentalists. The two are contradiction of terms. And of course, we all laughed about that, but there's still to this day, I see people online making comments, there's no such thing as a Mormon fundamentalist. And I always counter, you don't want to be called Mormon anymore. So let us be called Mormon because we still want the term,
Right. Yeah.
So, and it's funny online. So you have, ex-Mos or the ex-Mormons, prog-Mos, progressive Mormons. So people have started calling us fun-Mos, fundamentalist Mormons.
Oh, no kidding.
So,
fun-Mos.
we put the fun in Mormonism, I guess.
Right. I was in the funeral business, and I used to tell people I put the fun in funeral, but I guess you guys can take that now.
Yeah. So I don't know what else I got here. I went through my notes.
You know,
I started.
that's so intriguing. Just what you've told us, and I think that people would love to explore a little further. And if they want more information, where's the best place for them to go?
Okay, I run a pretty active TikTok account.
TikTok.
It's called the Punk Rock Polygamist.
Oh, cool.
If they want to get a hold of me and they don't want to use TikTok, they can look at me up on Facebook. I just go by my name, which is Moroni Lopez Jessup, or they can write me at angelwolf51@gmail.
Okay, we'll put that all in the show notes so that people
Okay.
can reference that. And we are so appreciative of you coming and sharing what you've shared.
Yeah, thanks.
It's intriguing, and I know that a lot of people will really enjoy listening to this. And those of you who do, don't forget to like and subscribe to Latter Daily Digest, Momo Nomo, and now Moroni's TikTok account,
Punk
or
Rock
Facebook,
Polygamist.
or the Punk Rock Polygamist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was given that name by Lindsay Hansen Park.
Oh, no kidding.
Because I make a lot of posts about music that I like, which happens to be counterculture, punk, post-punk.
Yeah,
And
I
she's like,
browsed through your site.
she's like, you're like the punk rock polygamist. And then somebody said, you better take that name and use it. So I did.
I like it. Well, thank you so much for coming on. And
Thank you for having me.
yeah, and if there's ever anything that you want to share with the world, just let Gene and I know, and we'd be happy to have you back.
Yeah, I'd like that. So I've actually I spent all last year very sick, and I'm still sick. I have end stage kidney disease.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And yeah, it is what it is. But I'm finally feeling better enough to start coming out and talking again. So this and the one I did last week with Benjamin Parks are actually my first time venturing out and speaking about these things again. So I really appreciate the opportunity.
Wonderful.
More than you know.
Well, we wish you the best with your health challenges. I know I have kidney disease as well, so we have that in common. But
Not a good thing to have in common.
No, it's not. It's not. Well, thank you. Thank you for being here. All of those of you watching, we appreciate you watching, and keep your eyes open for more information from Moroni. Thank you, Moroni.
Thanks for having me. We'll see you.
Oh, of course. Bye-bye.